In Enugu City, everybody who mattered in business knew the name Adaeze Chukwu. She was young, sharp, and owned 3 hotels before she turned 35. People called her the Iron Lady of Ogui Road because she never smiled at lazy staff and never gave excuses room to breathe. But there was one man in her biggest hotel that even the Iron Lady could not read. His name was Baba Emeka, the old gateman who had worked there for 9 years. Baba Emeka was tall, slow in his steps, and always wore the same faded brown cap. He greeted everyone with respect, opened the gate before cars even blew their horn, and closed it long after the last guest had gone. He never asked for salary advance. He never joined the other staff to gossip under the mango tree during break time. Every night, by exactly 8 o'clock, he would carry a small wooden box, lock the gate behind him, and disappear into the dark streets of Enugu. Nobody knew where he went. Some staff joked that Baba Emeka was into money rituals because of how secretive he was with that box. Others said maybe he was just an old man with old habits, nothing more. Adaeze herself did not think much of it until the night her generator refused to start and she needed Baba Emeka to help find the technician's number. She walked to the gatehouse and saw him locking his little wooden box with a small padlock, the same way a man locks something he does not want the world to touch. When she asked what was inside, he simply said, "Nothing important, ma, just my personal things." His voice was calm, but his hands were shaking slightly as he spoke, and Adaeze noticed. That night, as she sat in her office counting the day's sales, her mind kept going back to the old man and his box. She had built her hotel empire by trusting numbers, not feelings, but something about Baba Emeka's shaking hands refused to leave her mind. She told herself it was nothing, that an old gate man was allowed to have secrets like everybody else. But by the time the clock struck midnight, Adaeze had already made a decision that surprised even her. She was going to find out with her own eyes where Baba Emeka went every single night with that small wooden box. The next evening, Adaeze told her driver she wanted to handle something herself, and she borrowed her cousin's old Golf instead of using her own Jeep with the company logo. She parked far from the hotel gate, wearing a plain scarf and dark glasses, watching as Baba Emeka locked up at exactly 8 o'clock, wooden box under his arm. He did not enter any bus, he did not stop any bike, he simply walked, the way a man walks when his legs already know the road by heart. Adaeze followed slowly in the car, keeping enough distance so her headlights would not give her away. He walked past the noisy roadside food sellers, past boys playing draft under a broken streetlight, past a church where night vigil was going on loud and strong. He did not look back even once. After almost 30 minutes of walking, Baba Emeka turned into a narrow path that led under the old railway bridge, a place Adaeze had heard was full of touts and area boys, a place respectable people avoided after dark. Her heart began to beat fast, but curiosity pushed her forward. She parked the car quietly and continued on foot, staying in the shadows. What she saw under that bridge stopped her where she stood. There was light, small yellow bulbs powered by a noisy generator hanging from strings tied between wooden poles. Under those lights, more than 20 young boys sat on old tires and broken benches, notebooks and tools spread in front of them. Some boys were practicing how to fix small radios, wires and screwdrivers in their hands. Others sat with exercise books, sounding out letters slowly under the instruction of an older boy who seemed to be helping teach. And standing in the middle of it all, no longer the quiet gateman with a bent back, was Baba Emeka. His voice was strong now, confident, correcting a boy's hand as he showed him how to connect two wires without getting shocked. He opened his wooden box, and inside was not money or ritual items, but small tools, wires, screws, and a few storybooks with torn covers. Adaeze stood in the darkness, hand over her mouth, watching a man she thought she knew completely change in front of her eyes. Adaeze did not sleep well that night. She kept seeing Baba Emeka's hands moving steady and sure, teaching boys who the whole city had already given up on. The next morning, she called him into her office, something she had never done before except to warn staff about mistakes. Baba Emeka walked in slowly, removed his cap and stood with his hands behind his back like a soldier waiting for judgment. "I followed you last night," Adaeze said quietly. His face did not show shock, only a tired kind of acceptance, like a man who always knew this day would come. "I am not doing anything bad, Ma," he said softly. "Those boys have nobody. I only teach them small skills so they can survive without joining bad company." Adaeze asked him to sit, and for the first time in 9 years, Baba Emeka sat down in front of her like an equal instead of a servant. Slowly, his story came out word by word, like water finding its way through a small crack. Years ago, before he came to Enugu, he had a son named Emeka, a clever boy who dropped out of school because there was no money and no direction for him. With nothing to do and nobody to guide him, Emeka fell into bad company, joined a group of area boys and was killed in a cult clash before his 20th birthday. Baba Emeka's voice cracked as he spoke, but he did not cry. His pain had grown old enough to sit quietly inside him. "I could not save my own son," he said. "So I decided that as long as I have breath, I will not fold my hands and watch other people's sons walk the same road." That was why every night, rain or shine, he walked to the bridge with his small box of tools and books, teaching boys skills that could put bread on their table without putting blood on their hands. He taught them small electrical repairs, phone repairs, and basic reading, using materials he bought little by little from his own modest salary. Adaeze sat in silence after he finished talking, ashamed of how she had judged him as a suspicious old man when he was actually carrying a weight far heavier than any secret she had imagined. For many days after that conversation, Adaeze could not focus properly on her hotel business. Numbers that used to excite her now felt small compared to what she had seen under that bridge. She began to notice things about Baba Emeka she had ignored before. How his shoes were worn out at the sides, how he sometimes skipped his own lunch to save money, how he never once complained even when the rain soaked him on his way to teach. One evening, she called him again and told him plainly that she wanted to help, that she could build a proper shelter for the boys, buy real tools, and even pay teachers to support him. She expected him to be happy, maybe even relieved, but Baba Emeka's face turned careful instead. "Thank you, Ma," he said slowly, "but I am afraid." Adaeze frowned, confused, and asked what exactly he was afraid of. He explained that he had built this small thing with his own hands, slowly, quietly, without anybody clapping for him, and it belonged to him and the boys in a way that money could not simply buy. He feared that if a big person like her took over, the project would stop being about the boys and start about her name and her cameras. "I do not want my work to become another person's project," he said firmly. "I want to still recognize my own hands inside it." Adaeze sat back, surprised by his boldness, but something inside her respected him even more for refusing easy money without conditions. She realized that true help was not about pouring money on people and taking away their voice, but about standing beside them while they still held the pen that wrote their own story. So instead of pushing further, she asked him a simple question. Then tell me, Baba Emeka, what kind of help would not take your work away from you? He looked at her for a long moment, surprised that a rich woman would even ask such a question. And slowly, carefully, he began to explain what real partnership could look like. Baba Emeka's plan was simple but powerful. He wanted a proper building, not a fancy one, just strong enough to protect the boys from rain and wind. Built close to the bridge so the boys who already trusted the place would not run away from something too new. He wanted Adaeze to provide materials and basic funding, but he insisted that he remain the one to choose teachers, set the rules, and lead the classes, with Adaeze only supporting from behind. She agreed without argument, something rare for the Iron Lady of Ogui Road, because she finally understood that respect mattered more than control. 6 months later, a small block of 3 rooms stood beside the old railway bridge, painted bright yellow and blue, with a modest sign hanging above the door. The sign read, Emeka Skills Center, for every boy who deserves a better life. Inside, proper benches replaced broken tires, and solar lamps replaced the noisy generator. But the spirit remained exactly the same. Boys learning wiring, phone repair, carpentry, and basic reading, guided by Baba Emeka's steady voice. On opening day, market women, local government officials, and even a small news team came to witness the commissioning. But Baba Emeka insisted on standing quietly at the back, refusing to take the front seat prepared for him. It was Adaeze who called him forward, gently placing the microphone in his hand in front of everyone. He spoke briefly, his voice shaking with an emotion he had carried for years, saying only that every boy deserved someone who refused to give up on him. The crowd clapped, but Baba Emeka's eyes were fixed on the young boys sitting proudly in their new classroom, notebooks open, tools shining, futures slowly changing shape in front of him. Adaeze watched him too, no longer seeing just a gateman who locked a mysterious wooden box, but a man who had quietly been rebuilding broken futures long before she ever noticed. Thanks for watching this video, and do not forget to subscribe for more stories like this.